Alright, in my last video I told you that poetry was a huge part of my life. Like, anything that has to do with poetry is huge for me. A poem I read here, a poem I read there, and how touching it is. And modern poetry has become totally different than, like, past poetry. Because past poetry was more, not idealistic, but it was a little more hard to grasp. It wasn't as tangible as modern poetry is now. Modern poetry now is more raw, like slam poetry, where you go up there and speak your mind, and you talk about it. Like a line in my poem for speech is, no man will ever push me like that again, or push me around like that. And the line before it is her giving birth, and the doctor's telling her to push. And I think it's so clever, actually, to be honest. It's a really clever poem. It's just Who the Hell Is She Anyway by Marissa Acachella, if you're interested. But instead, I decided today that I'm going to read a poem by one of my favorite poets. Buddy Wakefield, definitely, by far. And one of my favorite poems by him is The Information Man. So I thought I'd just go ahead and read it to you guys. It's kind of lengthy, like maybe like 5 or 6 minutes. It's not that bad, but I don't know, once you really get into it, it's like it goes by really fast. And it's a poem that can definitely touch you, and you'll feel it, because Buddy Wakefield's amazing. And since I'm not the poet, I can't describe what he was feeling in this poem, you know. I can take it into my own perspective and be like, I think this is what he meant, and this is how I feel about it. But I don't know how he was feeling when he wrote it, and what was running through his mind when he wrote it. So you can look him up. He does everything live, and it's all over YouTube and the internet and stuff. But this is my version. This is how I read it, and this is how I decipher it, and it's great. So I'm just going to read it to you. The Information Man by Buddy Wakefield. Alright. After 300,000 miles, 12 dozen breakdowns nervous, one too many midnights, and a bunch of broken laws later, I have come here from out of the rain and into this rest area, caught 22 miles between you and me, watching the Information Man behind his information booth, juggling predictable conversation with folks who look like iceberg lettuce, and who believe that somehow the flat lines of small talk will give us life. I want them to leave, like a big deal orchestra removing itself from the string section so I can fiddle with fate and make music. There is a distance the size of bravery. It forms like words in the mouth of a baby reaching out for the point where all things meet. On one end of it sits an info guy, who I imagine holds down his second job as a church bartender behind locked doors leading to the bell tower we are not allowed to see. At the other end of the space, I am standing like shoe polish on an overstocked shelf, hoping that one day someone will pick me out to make things better. This is not a showdown or a shootout. We are not facing off, but I can feel the rumble between dusk and dawn, as if the chance to come clean with myself will be outlawed, unless I relax. I have heard that if you pull a bent breath through the second hole of a harmonica, turned to the key of Georgia, while the train moves by on the tail end of dusk, there is a good chance you will finally know what it means to rest. I have not yet rested. It takes a long time to make love with someone who hates themselves. It feels like I've been standing here for exactly that long when, at last, the rain outside drops off and takes everyone in the rest area with it, except for me and the info guy. If we were created in God's image, then when God was a child, he smushed fire ants with his fingertips and avoided tough questions. There are ways around being the go-to person, even for ourselves. But today I will get the answer. And you know what I'm talking about. The answer. Emphasis on the answer. So I put my best foot forward and take the kind of deep breath that gives me away as someone who deals with anxiety and odd numbers every minute. In between it, the info guy's eyes grab me and shift back and forth like mopping floors. With the sweat, I sweat myself in battles. He's got me locked in and is smiling. If you've If you've never been rocked back by the presence of purpose, this poem is too soon for you. Return to your mediocrity, plug it into an amplifier, and rethink yourself, because some of us are on a fire for the answer. I am ready for rejection and rebirth and balance on my stutter steps when the info guy finally pipes up like C.R. Avery in a piano box and says to me, I can tell you're looking for answers. In the same way I can see when Kenny Rogers is out of aces. So, for a taste of your whiskey, I'll give you some advice. I'm just fucking with you. You're not allowed to have alcohol here. It's a rest day, dude. Listen, if I didn't have so much of this life all wrong, I would have gotten it right by now. I talk a whole bunch, but I really only know a few things. So, I'm not saying follow what I say, but I'll just tell you a few things I tell myself. The things I know. And you can see what sticks. I know our shoes were stitched from songs about highways. The best songs are the ones about Georgia, even though I've never been there. It's the only place I still believe in Jesus. I know that no matter what it is you believe in, you've got to spare yourself the futility of making fun of God, because that guy hasn't spoken in, ever. I know troubleshooting yourself in the foot and acting as center of your own universe is a tricky dichotomy to deal with, but yes, you are the center of the universe. If you weren't, you wouldn't be here. So, as the middle of space and everything floating in it, it is your job to know that the emptiness is just emptiness. The stars are stars. And that the flying rocks fucking hurt. So please, stop inviting walls into wide open spaces. I know everything is out there. It's why they call it everything. I know there are times when you will lay your head to rest and have a moment of brilliance that grows in a perfect order of words, but you will slowly fall asleep instead of painting it down on paper. And when you wake up, you will have forgotten the idea completely and miss it like a front tooth. But at least you know how to recognize moments of brilliance, because even at your worst, you are fucking incredible. It comes honest. So return to yourself, even if you're already there, because no matter where you go, or how hard you try, or what you do, the only person you're ever going to be, and I know it, is you. Oh, that's why I love Buddy Wakefield so much. He's so, raw. He's so there, and he's okay with speaking his mind, even if it is in the form of poetry. He's letting people read his thoughts and letting them in, even though they're complete strangers. And I highly doubt he knows what people realize reading his poetry. I mean, I saw him at the Night Kite Revival this year perform a few of his poems with Derek Brown and Anis Mojani. And my gosh, he was amazing. He had this poem that was 4 or 5 lines long. It was just one stanza, probably a period and 3 commas. And just with that poem, everybody started crying. And it wasn't just the way he said it, but it was the words, too. I mean, the way he said the words, knowing he wrote that poem, and what he wanted to say to people. What message he was trying to send. Poetry can do that, and a lot of people are like, poetry's for emo kids, nobody likes poetry, poetry's hard to understand. But no, really, I mean, you can take whatever you want from it. And if you want to take, suicide from it, then take suicide from it. If you want to take dinner out of it, do that then. It doesn't matter. Just whatever you want to take from it. And it's great because it's very subjective. And, yeah, I don't know. That's about all I can say, really. I don't know. I think everybody should, take into consideration reading more poetry in their daily life. I mean, yeah, there are people who read, a ton, and they're, novelists and all this stuff. But, really, I mean, poetry is great. I don't know. You can take what you want from it and run with it. I mean, yes, it's other people's poetry, but it's your ideas that go into it, really. They just write it. And you can take what you want from it. And that's the great thing. And yeah, I think that's about it. I don't know. Go look up Buddy Wakefield, Kristen O'Keefe Aptowicz, Anis Morjani, Derek Brown, E.E. Cummings, Billy Collins. He's great. His poem, something forgetfulness or whatever. I think it's actually forgetfulness. It's funny. Like the first line, the first to go is the plot. And he just goes from there about like how his dad forgets books even though he reads like a maniac. But anyway, I'm signing off. So, see you guys.